anything about a spirit channeling plan?
If you mean the first plan from 300 years ago, then yes. Do you know what its main objective was?
Yes. It was to use Lenegis to siphon off Dana's astral energy and send it to Rena.
Exactly. However, there were two problems we had to consider. First was how to collect and send such a large quantity of astral energy without it becoming sentient. Second, we had to figure out how to convert Dana's energy so it would be compatible with Rena.
I take it the solutions to those problems were to use the wedge for the collection, and then the Sovereign and Maiden to convert the energy.
We have a winner! However, the first plan failed when the Sovereign was overwhelmed and became frenzied. The reason for that is because the Maiden lost control. I'm told he slaughtered many Renans in Helganquil that day. For the next plan, we tried to recreate the Renis Alma, but we didn't have nearly enough of the other non-dark astral energy types. To amend that, we set our sights on Dana, and implemented a system whereby we could extract energy from it.
And the crown contest began.
Correct. Since the Maiden had been the failing point in the previous plan, it was decided to replace her role with machinery to avoid further mishaps. A new Sovereign had to be made as well. It was such tremendously difficult work, its success was dubious. But from the look of things, it would appear such worries were unfounded.
So that's what the purpose of that room we found in the Forbidden Zone was.
What about the flower that sprouted from Rena?
Flower? Oh, that thing. That's the physical manifestation of all the astral energy that's been harvested from Dana. As I'm sure you've noticed, it's quite a lot of energy. At this point, it's likely that it's become physically integrated with Rena's planetary structure.
Hevrecht 35 mentioned that the spirit channeling plan is entering its final stage. Is that true?
It is. I never thought I would live to see the day with my own eyes, and yet here we are. Are we done talking now? If it's all the same to you, I'd really rather not miss anything that's about to happen.
He talks like the potential end of the world is just another day on the job.
You've got to remember that these guys have been living alone up here for a long time. Who knows what shape their minds are in?
It feels like our whole world has been turned upside down. Is there anything we know that's still true at this point?
Seriously, I'm still trying to process the fact that we Renans were created by the Helganquil, let alone the Sovereign and Maiden stuff.
Let's take a moment to gather ourselves. I know all of this is a lot to believe and take in, but I think it's fair to say that we've found the answers we've been looking for. Does everyone agree?
Agreed. Though I'll admit that I never expected it to all boil down to Rena's great spirit being behind everything.
Everything that's happened, everything we've endured, it's all because of astral energy.
And to get that energy, the Great Spirit took control of the Helganquil. Then the Helganquil created the Renans, who went on to invade and rule over the Danans.
Plus, the reason the Great Spirit can't directly control the Renans as well is likely because they were originally Danans all along.
Either way, I think it's fair to say we've all had a lot to take in at once. Maybe too much, even. We should probably take it easy and rest our minds a bit. Why don't we all take some time to think things over, before we decide on our next move?
That's a good idea, Kisara. If the Renan Great Spirit really is behind all this, then we've got a really big fight ahead of us. Because it's not just Dana on the line, but Rena too. If we're going to do this, we need to be completely sure of ourselves. So let's go ahead and break off for now. We aren't in any immediate danger, so we should be okay. You sure you don't want to be alone right now?
I could ask you the same question.
I figured I'd get all my thinking in while walking around and checking up on everybody.
I'll go along with you. I'm interested to hear what's on everyone's minds too.
Sounds good. Let's go find them.
Oh, this is
Gone their own way, huh?
Yeah, let's hit up each spot.
So I'm pretty sure this is, I think we're reaching the end, chat. This is like the moment in every Tales of game where your party separates and you have to talk to all of them. So far, things on Dana have proceeded according to plan. Feel honored to witness the final stages of an event generations in the making. Keen to see how it all turned out. Me too. Okay, so I have a couple of things to talk about. We have a skit to watch. We have to talk to everyone. I'm assuming, I think we're reaching the end. I'm gonna stand by my belief and say we're reaching the end. So basically, this is the moment in Tales of where we talk to every single character before the final battle, and the Great Spirit seems to be like gonna be the final boss. So I'm assuming we go to Rena, especially because we know that no one's on Rena, and the Renans. I interpreted this wrong. The Renans were created by the Helgen Quill, so Shion and Dohalim are Renans, but they were created by the Helgen Quill. So I misinterpreted that. Kind of wild that you know, a lot of this world was just like, you know, so many like things were like lies, like the crown contest and everything. I'm very mixed on how this end of the game is going. I was down for it before, but I'm kind of mixed now. I'm not gonna cook yet, actually. I'm kind of mixed on it. Some of the stuff was cool, but I don't want to go too much into it. I'll wait for the credits. I can hold off, but I'm very mixed on this Lenegus / Dig Faisal part, but we'll see how it goes. Talk to this oh, heal this NPC. I didn't realize there was an NPC. I should have read that dialogue, my bad. Oh well, too little, too late. Talk to some people. Did the Renans on Lenegus lose control of their Zoogles? I suppose it's plausible, what with all the astral energy flowing through the place. In which case, the arts that were keeping them in line must have been disrupted. I doubt it was otherwise the work of the Great Spirit. I agree, it's hard to believe that such a massive consciousness could deliberately conceive and then carry out such a localized phenomenon. Got Rimwell right there. These are Dig Faisal construction plans showing a central elevator shaft and... Alright. Got Rimwell right here. We got Kisara. So, yeah, Kisara's right there. I'm assuming Law... Shion's with me, right? Yeah, Shion's with me. So down here would theoretically be Law and Dohalim. Yeah. That's Law. I wonder, are Donans still not given surnames of their own? As crude of a tactic as it is, it's nonetheless an effective subjugation tool. But I suppose we aren't all that different, though grandiose sounding. Ours are simply a means to identify an individual life form's background. Okay. Here's Dohalim. The Overseer must be pleased to be able to witness the transformation of Dana before it passes on. Yeah, sure. Is there any other, The Overseer will in all likelihood remain with us for the time being as its vital signs continue to show us stable. Despite their appearance, their biology is surprisingly close to us. Isn't that just utterly fascinating? Yeah, so it turns out Donans and Renans aren't that different after all. I'm gonna say this. There are definitely some aspects I like when it comes to this whole part of the game. It's kind of like a mixed bag. There's some parts that I do like, and some parts that I don't like. What's over here? Ooh. Oh, this is like in Tales of Eternia. When Kyo and Merity have their talk on the observatory. Love it. We shall see how it all concludes. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Alright, I think we're good. I'm not even going to bother looking around. Finding one's footing.
Everything we thought we knew. It was all just a fabrication that the Red Women, no, that the Helganquil made up.
Right. Assuming we can believe anything that Hevrek 35 has told us, that is.
Well, if the names are anything to go by, it's possible the Helganquil could be behind the fruits of Helgen too.
But if Hevrek 35 was telling the truth, and this was all just one massive lie, does that mean everything we've done up until now has been pointless?
No, I don't think so. Or at least I hope not. I think it just means we've lost our foothold for now. That's all.
Really? Well then, if we've lost it, I guess we'll just have to find another. All of us together. And if we can't find one, then we'll make a new one. End of story.
Make one, huh? I see. Right then. Count me in.
Alright, let's go talk to the party members. It feels rushed, like they need to add a whole bunch of stuff to tie up loose ends, but didn't want to extend it. Yeah, I can agree with that. I will not argue that it doesn't feel rushed. I know what rushed Tales of games feel like. Like, Tales of Xillia. Love Tales of Xillia, but the second, the last act of Tales of Xillia feels pretty rushed. But I can definitely see this feeling rushed as well. It just feels like, you know what it feels like? Ever since, like, I would say, like, everything up till Lenegis. Like, ever since we reached Lenegis, don't get me wrong, we've had some interesting stuff. But, like, at the same time, it really just feels like the game is, like, putting info on us, or giving us, like, big plot reveals, or, like, teasing us on, like, little plot points. But, like, I don't know. This could have been executed better. And I'm definitely, I'll talk about this more in the credits, but I'm definitely of the belief, I think part 1 was handled better. Part 2 is not bad by any means, but it's definitely worse than part 1. I definitely enjoyed the first part of the game with the 5 realms more. And it's not just because the 5 realms was so well done, but just because, I don't know. Like, some of these moments have been, like, not amazing, but some of them have been decent. But, like, the execution to this whole second part was just, like, you know, could have been done better. I could see it feeling rushed. It just feels like most of the time we're just getting, like, big plot info dumps and stuff. Like, big moments, like, not even moments. Big cutscenes with just lots of info given to us and, like, not much time to process it. Or just, like, the fact that they're padding out the end game a bit. I can agree with that, though. But I want to see how the game ends, and we'll all talk about that more in the credits. But I can definitely agree with that stance. Not to say part 2's been bad, by any means. But it definitely, you could tell the quality has been lowered. The quality of the game, it doesn't really affect my opinion. It does affect my opinion a bit on the game, but, like, I still think this is one of the best Tales of games. It doesn't affect my opinion dramatically, because Tales of Xillia's Tales of Xillia's last act feels rushed a bit too, but I still love that game. So, this doesn't affect my opinion majorly. It does affect my opinion of, like, the plot a bit. And the climax, but it doesn't affect my opinion to a degree. And I also don't think part 2 is necessarily bad, but it's definitely, it's worse than the first part, and it has a few shortcomings, especially when compared to part 1, which was really well done. We'll keep playing the game, and we'll go more into that. I'm not going to talk about that much till we get to the credits.
Oh, it's you two. Does he seem like he's doing any better now?
He who? Oh, you mean Dohalim, don't you?
I know that we're all struggling to wrap our minds around it all, but he looked like he was taking it really hard earlier.
What do you think about everything we've learned? About the Renans, and the Great Spirit, and all that?
On some level, I'm not even really sure what to think, to be honest. I mean, the Great Spirit is like a huge natural disaster, but with a mind and will of its own. But if that thing's hellbent on trying to destroy our planet, then the only thing left for us to do is stop it. As for the Renans, I suppose my feelings on that are a bit more mixed.
How so?
Coexistence between Danans and Renans in Menancia is still a work in progress. In my case, I think that's partly because deep down, I was still on guard around Renans. So... to be told that they're like us, that they're actually just like us is... well... I guess it's a little deflating, to be honest.
You kept a pretty level head.
You mean about the Renans? At the end of the day, the Helgan Quill and the Great Spirit are the ones who are responsible. But at the same time, I realize that not every Danan is necessarily going to believe that either.
I know you're already aware of this, but the list of grievances the Danans have against the Renans is long, and understandably so. And if people then find out that they're all actually one and the same, yeah, I don't think they're going to take to it too kindly.
Even just among the Danans, I'm sure there'll be some who emerge with power and some who won't. I think if we can find a way to get rid of that imbalance, then we'll be in a truly good place.
Well, first, we can try to figure out what to do about the existing conflicts we have.
Yeah. It'd be nice if one day people could learn to get past their hatred like Rinwell did.
It's no small task. We can't pretend like the past didn't happen and ask people to forget their very real pain and suffering.
Right. Everybody has their reasons for feeling the way that they do. But if we just keep yelling at each other about it, we'll never move on. In a worst-case scenario, it might lead to even more people getting killed.
And we all have to figure out how to meet halfway. Not just that, but to also embrace each other's pain, in a sense.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
It's true. Everybody has their own scars, their own trauma. The first step to healing those wounds is to put aside that hatred. It won't be achieved through reasoning, but I think it's a good first step, if nothing else. And now, I think I see a way to move forward. But to do that, first we need to make sure our planet isn't going to get wiped out.
That's another thing. I'm gonna talk to Kisara really quick before I say this. Now to think about how we can all embrace each other's pain, as you put it. Alright. Yeah, I'm gonna say another thing. Final boss, very, very disappointing. Because, I don't know. Like, Volrin is back. I don't know if we're gonna fight Volrin again. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Can't really say much on that, but the villains in this game are pretty underwhelming, honestly. I would say, like, you know, like, again, that little side quest we got, it wasn't as crucial. The villains in this game are pretty disappointing. Like, other than the main characters, there hasn't really been much other, like, stuff. Like, normally what Tales of games do is, like, Berseria. Tales of Berseria does a really good job with the Abbey and the villains in that game. Artorias, Shigure, Melchior, and all of them. Showing you, like, behind-the-scenes cutscenes of, like, what they're doing, what they're planning, and, like, how they're gonna strike, the group and everything. Tales of Xillia does really well with the Chimeriad, showing you facts, like, showing you behind-the-scenes stuff of happening. This game doesn't do a lot of that. This game doesn't do a lot of, like, behind-the-scenes stuff of, like, yeah, it's showing you, like, the villains plotting. Like, that's why when the Red Woman came, it was, like, out of nowhere. The Red Woman came literally out of nowhere. And the Lords were, like, fine placeholders. Very much like Palace Rulers in Persona 5. But they didn't do enough with the Lords, I think, other than that side quest. That side quest wasn't even that crucial. But yeah, the villains are pretty underwhelming. But again, I don't want to go too much into that now. Let's just finish talking to the party.
You both seem awfully calm.
Only because after everything we've seen, we don't have the energy to keep being shocked.
How are you holding up, Rinwell? That whole talk about the Renans looked like it shook you up a bit.
Yeah. I get this sinking feeling whenever I remember how Danon mages like my family were persecuted and died out. And now, I finally know why that is. But I was thinking, if Renans end up living together with Danons again, then mages won't be such an unusual thing to see on Dana anymore, right? I know it's not as simple as all that, but Danons probably won't be so quick to let their guards down. And there might be Renans who still act superior because of their arts.
It wouldn't surprise me. 300 years of bad blood and prejudice isn't going to be an easy thing to overcome.
Yeah. I know firsthand just how much hatred can take hold in your heart once you let it in. But even so, I was still able to change. And if I can change, so can anyone else. So I was thinking maybe, I don't know, I could use my position as both a Danon and a mage to help bring both sides together.
Rinwell.
That great spirit worries me too, though. Dana's will feels so warm and inviting. So why is Rena's will trying to destroy our entire planet?
Now that you mention it, Everett 35 and the other scientists here never really brought that up. Maybe they don't know either.
Maybe. But regardless, at the end of the day, Dana's still our home. There's no way we can let it be destroyed.
We won't. We'll keep it safe no matter what.
I concur. This doesn't change, though. The main cast, chef's kiss. I love them. Hope there comes a day when mages are just like anyone else in Dana. Yeah, like, again, this doesn't affect... This is still one of the best Tales of games I've played. But this second half of the game is a shortcoming. For sure. And, you know, like, if you're someone who doesn't play Tales of, you're probably like, the story, like, of course you can have an opinion of, you can judge the game as a game. That's totally fine. Judge the game as a game. This is a standalone Tales of game. Tales of games never are sequels to each other. So, compare them as if they're games, but coming from someone who plays the other Tales, like, most of the other Tales of games, almost every single one, comparing this to the other games, the plot is definitely not the best. And, again, I think the first part was pretty well done. Not as good as Berseria's plot, but the first part was definitely, like, it could be in my top 3 plots, but this second half of the game makes the plot, like, go down in rank for me.
I still can't believe it, man.
You're not the only one still trying to make sense of all this. Believe me.
Really? You've never struck me as the type of guy to get hung up on these sorts of things.
Did you forget what happened back in Thistleum? Once my memory started coming back to me, I felt completely and totally lost.
It was really that bad for you?
Yeah, it was. But thanks to Law and everybody else, I remembered that I still had things out there worth fighting for.
Man, I think you might be a better guy than me, Alphen. All I can remember thinking was, when's this guy gonna get his act together?
Law.
I was too worried about repeating the same mistakes I'd made back with my dad, and running away from the truth. That was no way to live. And I've tried to stay strong, my way. But all this talk about other races and the world ending, if I can be honest with you guys, it's just all too much for me to handle right now.
I know this is going to sound strange coming from me, but maybe the key is not to worry too much about the big stuff right now.
Oh?
I used to worry all the time about my thorns, for obvious reasons, but I never really opened up to anyone about them. And when I realized my visions pointed to a threat that was bigger than me, I didn't know what I should do, or who to tell. But that's when I finally got it. You guys were all there for me, to teach me what's really important. I just had to open up and listen.
In other words, if you let the big picture stuff get you all muddled up inside, you'll begin to lose sight of what you really care about. Yeah, I think you're right.
The thing that's most important, what I really care about, all I want to do is protect the people that really matter to me, to fight for them. That's good enough, right?
Not everyone is strong enough to fight.
Huh?
It's something your dad told me once when he was still alive. Law, you know you're strong enough to fight, and you're strong enough to protect the people you care about. Forget all the big stuff going on. Just don't lose sight of what you want to protect in the first place. Sound good?
Yeah, I think it does. It's like a big weight's been lifted off my shoulders. I'll fight to protect the people around me. Just like I always have. I think that's best.
Great character. I'll leave the big boy tricky stuff to you and do what I can to help on my end. Alright. Last but not least, I didn't plan this, but Dohalim, the best character, gets to be last. I mean, technically Shion's gonna be last, but of the ones they give me options for, Dohalim is last.
I apologize for making you witness that.
You mean hearing the origins of the Renans?
Indeed. It's shocking to have so many things I thought to be indelible fade away in mere seconds.
Even I'm still not sure everything we've heard here is actually true.
Let's not delude ourselves. If what we've heard is a lie, it's a rather elaborate one. I can only imagine that you must have been constantly feeling like this, ever since your memory returned, Alphen. And you as well, Shion. About your thorns, and being a maiden.
That's just part of being alive, don't you think?
Well, to say the least. But enough about me. I'm not concerned for myself. What concerns me is all of the other Renans out there.
When you say the other Renans, you mean the ones that are living on Lenegis or Dana, right?
Correct. Even if we stop the Great Spirit from annihilating Dana, our problems will still remain. Putting aside the untold state that Rena may be in, if we do not truly belong there, we will have to think long and hard about where it is that we wish to return to.
So, I guess your only real choices at this point are to either stay on Lenegis or come down to Dana, huh? And right now, Lenegis might not even be a safe option.
And at the same time, Danans are hardly likely to embrace Renans with open arms. If the issue is forced, things could turn dire. There is, after all, 3 centuries worth of hatred to overcome between us. And the victims of our rule have absolutely every right to feel animosity towards us Renans. Our own circumstances as the aggressors are irrelevant.
I didn't expect the former Lord of Menancia to be so down about people reconciling.
Menancia's fate was a stroke of good luck. There had been backlash over how it had been ruled, and I was blessed to have sympathizers among my ranks. Still, even now, there remain ardent dissidents.
But things can still change if you have the right people to help lead the way. Isn't that what you hope to achieve on Lenegis, after this is all over?
Indeed. I have fully accepted the burden of that responsibility. In that regard, I remain determined. On that note, I have something of a favor to ask of you, Alphen.
Oh? What is it?
I wish for you to serve as a mediator so that the Renans can live on Dana peaceably. As the one and only Blazing Sword, I suspect the Danans may listen to what you have to say when problems arise.
And I take it that you'll be the one to represent the Renans?
Yes. I realize that I'm asking quite a lot of you. However, the fact of the matter is that it will take time for Renans to re-enter Danan society without any bloodshed. That is why...
You're the same as ever, Dohalim.
Is it too much?
No, relax. You get so tense and formal when you're asking for a favor. Listen, there's no need for that. We're friends.
You're too kind. I can see you were raised well.
That's some high praise, Alphen.
Then I'll ask once again, this time just as friends. Alphen, will you help me?
You don't even need to ask. Of course I will.
Thank you, my friend.
Man, I love Dohalim.
Well, it sounds like everyone's learning from their past and using it to create a better future for everyone.
What about you, Shion? How do you feel about the origin of the Renans?
To be honest, I'm not really all that shocked, actually. I mean, I might be a Renan in the literal sense, but I've never really felt like one of them. Right now, it's kind of a mystery.
How do you mean?
Because for a really, really long time, all I ever thought about was how I was going to die. Not if or when, but how. I thought I'd die alone. That fate had me in its steely grip. I would have never imagined that I'd be traveling with someone like you, fighting to save Rena and Dana. I mean, how could I have? It's been going on for 300 years. All this tragedy and destruction. When you consider the Helganquil's part in all this, it's been even longer than that. It was Naori's hope that somehow, someone in the future would be able to stop it, before it was too late. How it fell on us, of all people, to heed that call, is a mystery.
I don't think Naori was hoping that we would just stop the world from getting destroyed. She considered me, a Danan, as a real person. And she very much cherished her own people, too. I don't think she wanted the world to be saved, just so they could go back to hurting each other. Ah, maybe this is what she meant.
Huh?
When we were talking to Kisara earlier, about all that stuff like everyone's needing to meet halfway and embrace each other's pain and suffering. She said that the first step down that path was for each of us to put aside our own hatred. That means forgiving other people, even and especially before they forgive you.
Forgiving. So it goes both ways, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I don't just mean forgiving things that happened in the past either. Conflicts will keep happening. If we have any hope of moving on and building a better future, we have to all learn to forgive each other.
You know, you're right. People can hurt one another without even meaning to. I know that better than most, thanks to these thorns.
It's not going to be easy getting past this pain. But if we can do it, I'm sure there'll come a time when we can all truly understand each other. I'm there with you, Shion. I too want to protect the world we live in, and all the people we care about. I think that's the very least I can do to repay Naori for everything that she did.
Yeah. I want a future that she would feel proud to live in, and I'm going to fight for it.
Whoa there, Savior Girl. We're here to save you too, you know.
Yes, I know. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. I want to live, and that's the honest truth.
Are we gonna have a moment on the observatory with Shion?